Hey guys, so today we're going to go through the 9 books that I have read in the last 2 months. I definitely have had a bad reading start to the year for sure, but I do feel like I'm going to start reading a little bit more. I have some ideas. I'm also going to be posting on this channel a little bit more. I just have a better understanding and a sense of where I want this channel to go and what I want to do with it. So I haven't really posted obviously in like a month, or actually it's been longer, but I have still been reading. So let's just go through all of the books that I've read the last 2 months. And then hopefully I can come back to you in a much more regular manner. So I finished this one, I would say like pretty much at the start of February. This is Jade and Dragons by Amber Chen. I got this from Illumicrate. I have since paused my Illumicrate subscription and my Fairylit subscriptions because I do want to get through all of the ones I have yet to read. And I'm doing a pretty good job of it. There's actually quite a lot in this pile of books in front of me of what I've read. So I'm trying to figure out if it's really worth me carrying on with those subscription boxes. But this was actually quite a fun read. It was super, super easy to read. It is more on the YA side, I believe. There is a little bit of a love story in here, but it doesn't center around that at all. It actually is a kind of like a Mulan style retelling book, because it is about this girl who witnesses the death of her father, and she tries to find out like who the killer is, and she basically joins this sort of military sort of academy that is only available for boys, but obviously she's a girl and she kind of disguises herself to be her brother by going there. There's a little bit more going on, but it was a very, 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 very easy book to read. I actually very much enjoyed it. I gave it a 4-star. I didn't think I was going to enjoy it as much as I did, but I think because it was such an easy, digestible story, and honestly, the pages, like if you see the actual size of the writing is humongous. There's definitely another book coming up in the series, so I'm open to reading the other book, but I don't know if I'm going to seek out and actually try to read it. If and when, maybe I'll read it, but it's definitely not a series that I'm, dying to get my hands on. But I did actually enjoy this. Okay, I also read this one, When the Moon Hatched. This is by Sarah A. Parker. So I had tried to read this, I want to say late last year, and then I soft DNF'd it. I really did not like the way it was written, and I got through the prologue and I was like, what on earth am I reading? I don't understand all these moons and these gods and whatnot. And honestly, it is a very convoluted writing style, and the story itself, had it been clear from the start what this was trying to do and the way that it's written, if it was written in a way that was a little bit more coherent, then I think a lot more people would enjoy this book, because it is quite flowery and I can understand the criticism behind it. I did give this 4 stars because I think the idea of the story and the concept is interesting, but I could not sit here and tell you what this book is about, because it is so convoluted in a sense where it doesn't really need to be. I will try, but I don't know how to explain what happens in the story without talking about spoilers. I'm trying not to spoil every single book, because I know when I first started my channel, I was spoiling every single book, and I'm not going to do that anymore. So it is about, I can't really tell you what this is about. Obviously, it's a romantasy, but it's a romantasy in the sense that he kind of falls first. So that is a little bit of a trope, but it's also, oh God, I can't say anything without spoiling anything. There's not enough suspense for me to enjoy it as a romance, because it is a little bit too instant, in my opinion. There isn't enough back and forth, like banter in that sense. It takes itself very seriously, this book. And so honestly, the more I talk about it, the more I feel like maybe it should have been a 3-star. For whatever reason, I gave it a 4-star. So it is a 4-star, and I don't think I will read the rest of the series because I don't think I like the writing style, unfortunately. Sorry I couldn't really explain what the story is about, because honestly, at the point that I explain what it is about, it's kind of a spoiler, so I can't really do that. Okay, next up I read Check and Mate. These were all in February, by the way, and then we'll move on to the March books. So obviously this is Ali Hazelwood. This is her YA debut. I like this. I thought it was fine. I thought it was sweet. There is a lot of chess in this. And I know it's about 2 chess players, but there's an awful lot about chess. And I know how to play chess. I'm not good at playing chess. But growing up, my brother and my dad would play together and I would try to play. And I know how to play. I'm just a terrible player. I've never won a game in my life. So I understood a lot of what they were talking about. And I've also seen a lot of chess matches because I'm weird like that. And I've seen I've seen tournaments and things like that. So I can understand everything that this book had in there, but at the same time, it was boring to read about because, it's just not a very interesting topic. And I want to say, I don't feel like we got the male perspective at all. We didn't really, the book doesn't center around the male very much at all. So at the point that, obviously it's a romance, the point that they, are together or they are in love with each other, I felt like I had no idea who he really was. He was just like this mysterious chess player who has this reputation. And that is as much as we're given. And that is as much as we're really ever given. Obviously, there's a little bit more depth to him, but I don't feel like he has much of a personality. And I don't like that. I feel like men in books, the way that they're written, they have to have some type of personality, right? And I don't know, I feel like this lacked that. So I think there was too much chess and not enough of the male sort of like an understanding of who he was. So I couldn't really buy into the love story. Having said that, I think I gave this 3. I think it's like 2.5, 3. It's like a 2.5, 3 because it was fine, but, I think I'm done with Ali Hazelwood. This obviously doesn't have any smut. All the rest of her books have smut. The only one that I actually have enjoyed was Bride, and I gave that 4 stars. A lot of people don't like that book, that like Ali Hazelwood. I like that book, but I probably liked it because it was just, for what it was a fun read. It's not something that I am desperate to reread again or anything like that. And I think she isn't the type of author for me. So I think this is probably my last Ali Hazelwood book. All right, then I read this one. This is so cute and such a sweet looking book. This is from Fairy Loot. It is The Teller of Small Fortunes by Julie Long. So this one I went in, it's a very short read, and I was like, let's read a little cozy fantasy. And that's exactly what it is, but it's a little too cozy for me. There really is hardly anything that happens in this book, to the point that it is very, very dull. It's like a found family in a sense, because you start off with just this one character, and she is a traveling fortune teller, and then along the road she meets 2 men who are on a mission to find one of their daughters. And one of them is, he's looking for his daughter. The other one is like a thief, and he's helping him. So they're like friends. And at first you're like, uh-oh, like they're bandits or whatever, but actually they're very nice. They help her on her quest. They like, oh, let's all join hands and join together, and let's all go on our journey together. And then they meet up with this other girl who wants to be a baker, and so they basically adopt her, and she starts it's about a group of people, a group of odd people who all join together, and it's sweet, it's cozy. And the world itself is interesting, but it's not expanded on that much. There's a lot of magic going on, and like trolls and things. And at some point in the story, they go on this quest to steal an egg from a dragon. I think it's a dragon. I can't. Oh no, it was a phoenix. That whole subplot had nothing to do with the story, and I was just thinking, like, why is this in the story? It doesn't add anything. They don't win anything. Nobody learns anything from it. It literally is just there to maybe fill in a few pages. I don't really know. I found this to be very dull, and it didn't feel like a complete story to me. There is somewhat of a plot going on, but it's only really towards the end of the book that you kind of get there. And then at the same time, it doesn't really amount to anything, because it's not, nothing really happens. So I gave this a 2-star. It's a sweet book. It sounds like it's a fun read, but it's really not. I don't recommend this to anyone, unfortunately. Okay, and the last book that I read in February was Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. So this is the first book that I have read from her. This is also the first of, I think it's a trilogy within this little world. And this is a age gap romance where the woman is about like 10 years older than the man. You know, it's just like a little rom-com. So I went into this expecting to somewhat like it because there's so many people that I watch on booktube that really, really enjoy this book, that are not necessarily romance readers, but they really, really enjoyed this book. And I have learned that I am not a huge contemporary romance person anymore. I used to be back in the day, but I don't find them very funny, and I don't find the romance all that captivating anymore. So I went into this, you know, apprehensively. I was hoping to enjoy it, and there are aspects of this that I do like. I think some of the banter between the characters and the flirtation between the characters is nice and written well. But what I will say is I didn't like that it was very insta love. And that's just a trope that I just do not like. I just don't like it because I feel like once you get to a certain point in the book, I just want the book to be over with. And if it's insta love, then I just don't have any desire to read a 300, 400 page book. This one's not too long, but it is almost 400 pages. And it loses the suspense at that point. Also, I was really hoping this book wouldn't do the thing that it did, where it has like the third act breakup and all that. I was really hoping, because when I was reading this, I was thinking, oh, it's going to be like a third act breakup. And then at some point, midway through the book, I was thinking, you know what? There won't be. I don't think there will be. I think that this book will be different to every other book. But no, there was a third act breakup. And, you know, they're just boring after a while. Especially if the conflict makes no sense in my brain. And the fact that this is about a 36, 37-year-old woman who is just a few years older than me, I would expect her to be a lot more mature, and she wasn't very mature. And the guy is like 27, I think, and he is just like perfect. And she just wants to find flaws in him that don't exist. And there's this whole conflict with her family and her ex. And for me personally, I didn't buy it. I didn't really truly buy into all of that. So the third act breakup didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Also, the fact that she was hiding a lot of things from the younger man was really weird to me, and quite toxic actually. She also kind of talked down to him. She kind of used him in a sense, and I hated it. I hated the way she treated him, to be fair. So yeah, I gave this like a 2.5, 3-star. It's around there. I didn't really like this, and I don't think I will read anything else from this author, just because if this is the best book that people are saying that she's written, I mean, not everyone says that, but you know, I'm exaggerating, but a lot of people love this book that love this author. So I'm just thinking her other books, if they're worse than this, I don't really want to read them. So yeah. All right, moving into March, I did listen to an audiobook. So I think I started this in February, but I didn't finish it until the beginning of March. And this is Black Sunshine by Karina Howe. Now, this is like a dark romance, supernatural romance, like vampires and whatnot and witches. And honestly, it was free on my my app. So I was like, let's just start it. Let's read it. So I listened to this. And it was I didn't really like it. I gave it a 1-star. I did listen to the whole thing. I don't know why. Why didn't I DNF this? I have no idea. But honestly, I didn't feel like it was, you know what? I didn't like the man in this. I thought it was really creepy that he knew the girl from when she was just a child and watched her grow up, and then they had this romance. I thought that whole concept, I mean, yeah, maybe that's a little bit of a spoiler, but I just thought that was so gross. and he's a vampire, and she's like, she learns that she is a vampire as well, but also other things. I don't want to spoil it completely if somebody wants to read this, but it's, yeah, one of these dark little smutty romances, and I gave it a 1 star. So anyway, moving on. I read The Principle of Moments by Esme Jikimi Pearson. Sorry if I have butchered that name, but this obviously was sent from Illumicrate in one of their boxes. I don't remember which one, but I got it last year. And this is more of a sci-fi fantasy. And I thought, you know what, that might be interesting. I don't really have a lot of sci-fi in my life. And I thought, you know what, let's try it. And this was a DNF. I did read, I want to say more than half of it. I think I read like 200 and plus pages. And then at some point I just felt like it wasn't going to get better. I read and I read and I read, hoping that this would get better, but I really just didn't care at that point who the characters were. And I think the problem with this book is trying to do too much in one little book. It's quite a small book, and I think that there's too many characters that you're trying to follow, too many subplots. There's also, I feel like a little bit of a romance thrown in there that doesn't need to be in there. And it is about time travel and jumping between different times. But because there are so many different perspectives, it got a little confusing. There's actually 2 romances in here. I've just remembered there's 2 romances in here. One of them is fine. The romance between the boy and this historical figure in England is absolutely fine. I felt like that was sweet, but there wasn't that much of it. But obviously it alluded to a little romance there. But then I think there was another romance that was starting to develop later on in the book for the girl and somebody else, and I was just like, I'm not interested. So this, I found the world and the world building very confusing in this, and I did find myself not caring. And they kept getting into situations where, you know, they were held prisoner and they just escaped really, really easily. And it just seemed very YA to me. It didn't seem to be a cohesive book where there's a lot of development. They have a quest that they're doing, that like they're trying to get someplace for a purpose. You know, he's kind of, and there is an interesting thing where he is a time traveler, and about time traveling, there's this thing where if you do it too much, you kind of get locked into a place. And the more you time travel, I think the more it sucks the life out of you, or like slowly kills you or whatever. And there's like a past to him too that I don't quite understand. Maybe it's my fault. I just read this not really understanding everything. And it just went by really fast as well. So I'm thinking, the story itself is probably good and interesting, but I think writing it all in one little book was a little too much for me. So yeah, I DNF'd this. I did give it 2 stars because it's not like terrible. The writing isn't awful. It just isn't for me. All right, moving on. I did read The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. This is my first Holly Black. I know this is a beloved book by many people. Many people enjoy this book. And I actually have the whole series. I think there's 4 books, but I only have the 3 because I think the 4th one is maybe like added on later on. So I do have the other 2 books in this series. However, I did end up giving this, I think, only a 3 stars. Obviously it's a romantasy and it is a YA. The thing that I really didn't enjoy about this, because I do like the concept of humans being kidnapped to go to the Fae land and having to go to school with a bunch of Fae and being hated on and all that. That's in itself kind of interesting. But she is so bullied in this book. It's like endless. And also the guy who is being so nasty to the point where she is almost dying in different situations because his friends absolutely hate her. He is supposed to be the love interest. I'm sorry, I do not believe it. I do not believe it for 1 second. I did not fall for their romance at all. And so it'll be interesting how the second book goes, because obviously with the way that this book ended, you know kind of where we are in terms of their, like, they're kind of tied to each other, at least for the next year in a sense. And I think it'll be interesting to see if he is still you know, horrible, or if there is a better romance that develops between the two. But I'm very curious as to why people really like this book, because I felt like she was just bullied, and all I was reading was her being bullied at her school or her college or whatever it is. And I didn't like it. I didn't like it. All right, then I read The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. And I'm still thinking about this book. I finished this last week. And I was just thinking about it earlier today. And you know what? This is a cute little story. I give it 4 stars. It's not a 5-star for me because I think ultimately it's not super unique, but it does have that thing where it's like found family. It's a cozy little fantasy. There's a little bit of a romance in here that's very sweet, and I enjoyed that as well. And there is a little house plant that talks. And so, you know, what could you want more? It is very, very sweet. It's about this girl who works at the library, and the whole city is burning down because there's a little bit of a revolution. So she decides to steal all the books with her houseplant that talks to her. He's also her assistant. And in this world, this magical world, she steals all these spell books basically, because normal people are not really allowed to use magic, and they're kind of banned, and only sorcerers are really allowed to use the magic, or people with approved power. And so she steals all these books. She goes to the island that she was born, and she goes back to her family house. Obviously her parents have already passed away, so it's vacant. So she just decides to do it up, open up a spell shop where they sell like remedies, jam, and it's just super cozy and sweet. Obviously there's conflict. She's worried about getting caught with all these spell books and whatnot, and there are situations in the island that she sees that she could potentially fix. And then, you know, obviously there's a little bit more conflict that happens. I think ultimately the thing that bugged me the most about this book is there's 2 times that she has to basically hide all the books and, you know, hide a lot of things in her life. That happens twice, and it's like back to back. So it was very repetitive in a sense that, you know, I can get why that might happen once in the story, but it happened twice, and it was a little bit boring that it had to happen again. But I just felt like it wasn't very fun to read. I've just had to redo this little clip here because my camera didn't film it and I was editing this video. So I've come back to talk about these books. But anyway, yeah, I gave this a 4-star. I thought it was really nice. It's actually the best book that I've read this month, March. So yeah, I thought it was the best one. One more book that I finished in March was this one, To Gaze Upon Wicked Kings by Molly X. Chang. So this one, I really didn't think that it was done very well. I don't know what I was expecting, because there's been so much discourse about this book and what, like, politically and historically, like, is it right to have a book to talk about all of this? And I'm not really going to get into all of that. I think the book itself is just not written very well. And I think most of the intrigue and like the stuff that is the most interesting part about the book happens right at the end to lead up to the second book. So I think the second book essentially will probably have a more interesting plot, because I think this one just took forever. And the whole book, we're following this girl who has this power of death where she can kill people with her mind, basically. And the more that you use your power, the more it kills your inner power, like your ki. I think it's called your ki. And so, you know, the more she uses her power, the more it's going to suck her soul, basically. And she is kind of recruited by one of the princes who is part of the monarchy that have come to invade China, basically. And in this book, it's the Roman Empire, which is kind of interesting. So he's a Roman, and she's been recruited by him to become his assassin, because he's kind of convinced her that, you know, A, she needs to do it anyway, because otherwise, you know, her family is going to be in danger, and B, she's going to do it for the betterment of her country and whatnot. And she kind of believes him, and she goes along with it. And she, for months, starts being his little assassin and kills all the people that he wants her to kill. Obviously, there's quite a bit going on in the background that we are, as reader and she, are not aware of until right at the end of the book. But I do think she's very naive. I do think she's quite stupid in a sense that she's just blindly trusting this man who is part of this family who have just come in and destroyed the country. So she has essentially gone against her native, people, and there's this whole underlining talk about that too. So it's quite a political leaning book, but it is centered around a very fantasy world where there's a lot of other people who have all of these special powers, but however, hers is a little bit more unique. And I don't want to get into like any spoilers. Obviously, there's a beginnings of a little bit of a romance, but there's no actual romance in this book. So I would say it's more of a just historical fantasy. And then I assume that the second book and like leading on to the other books, there'll be more of a romance. I didn't think it was very good. I didn't really enjoy it too much, but you know what? It is what it is. I gave it a 2-star. I think that this book could have been condensed down to like 100 pages and been the start of a bigger picture and a bigger story. So obviously I haven't read the second book, but I'm assuming that that's going to be a lot more interesting where we actually have more going on. I feel like every single chapter, we're just in her head. It's like an inner monologue and not a lot actually happens. She's just constantly talking about her family, talking about how she doesn't want to kill these people, but it's for her family, how she really trusts this guy. And it's just constant and it's just a little bit dull. And this is only 300 pages. So I'm basically saying you could have cut out 200 pages, maybe even more. Have it like a short little intro to the story of what this book is, because months go by in this book, like maybe 9-10 months, but nothing really happens on paper. We're just told it. And yeah, there's really no like showing. It's just more about telling. So it's not the type of writing that I really enjoy. So this one I gave a 2-star. I didn't really like it, but it was a relatively easy read because not much really happened in the book. And then what I am reading right now, obviously it's April right now as I'm filming this, so this will be in my April wrap up. I haven't finished it quite yet, but this is The Right Move. This is the second novel in the Windy City series that she's got. It's by Liz Tomford, and this one I'm really, really enjoying. So I'm on page like 300. So I've got like 200 pages left. These books are so huge, but I'm actually really enjoying this one. I think this is going to be a 5-star. I liked the first one and I gave that one a 4-star. And I think I like this one quite a bit better. So yeah, this might be a 5-star finally, because I haven't read a 5-star since January. So it'd be really nice to read a 5-star again. But yeah, I have the 5-star feelings, so we'll see. I'm just really enjoying the characters in this one. I think the romance is really good and a lot better than the first book. And the first book I did actually enjoy. So yeah, I'm really enjoying this one. So anyway, those are all the books that I've been reading or am currently reading, and I'm definitely wanting to get back into the groove of posting more on this channel. I know I've been saying that for a long time now, but I have some better understanding of like what I want to do with this channel. So hopefully you stick around and I will see you next in my next video. Bye.